You know that feeling, right? You're about to do something big, something important, and then bam, your own mind floods you with a million reasons why it's a terrible idea. It really feels like you've got an enemy camped out right inside your own head. But what if I told you that enemy isn't an enemy at all? I mean, maybe you're up at 2 a.m. replaying some dumb thing you said, or you come up with this brilliant idea only to talk yourself out of it an hour later. It is absolutely exhausting, isn't it, to feel like your own internal voice is your biggest saboteur? But here's the thing. That's not a personal failure. It's not just you. And this is the most important part to get. Your mind isn't broken. Not at all. It's just running on some seriously old software. Think about it like a computer that's still using an operating system from decades ago. That program had one job: keep you safe. The only problem is that old safety protocol is now holding you back from the life you actually want to live today. So if we're going to fix this, we have to understand what we're dealing with. We need to look under the hood at that original programming. What are the lines of code that are creating all these automatic self-sabotaging thoughts? Okay, here it is. This is the absolute core principle. When you were a kid, what was the most important thing? Fitting in, not making mistakes, not getting into trouble. So your mind learned a very simple, very powerful equation. Change equals danger. Anything new, anything uncertain, anything different from the status quo got flagged as a potential threat. And your mind's number one job is to protect you from threat. So to enforce that one big rule, it created a bunch of smaller ones. You know them. Don't stand out. Don't try anything you might fail at. Definitely don't get your hopes up. And for a long time, these rules worked. They kept you safe. But the crazy irony is that now, those same rules that were meant to protect you have become the walls of a prison, keeping you small. And this is where that old software gets really, really sneaky. It doesn't just yell, "I'm scared." No. It disguises the fear as perfectly sound logic. A thought like, "You probably won't get it anyway." That sounds like rational, realistic thinking, right? But it's not. It's just your fear of disappointment wearing a clever costume. It's fear masquerading as wisdom. So, if you can't just fight this thing head on, what on earth is the solution? Well, it all comes down to one single, incredibly important shift in how you relate to your own mind. Look, trying to argue with your own thoughts is like trying to wrestle with your own shadow. It's pointless, it's exhausting, and you will never, ever win. That programming is just too old, it's too deep. The answer isn't to fight harder, it's to use a completely different strategy. And here it is. This is the key that unlocks the whole thing. Stop treating your thoughts as if they are facts. Start treating them as what they really are: suggestions. A thought like, "this is going to be a disaster," isn't a factual report from the future. It's just a suggestion from that old cautious software. And the beautiful thing about a suggestion, you can politely decline. All right, let's make this real. How does this actually work in practice? What does it look like to go from treating thoughts as facts to treating them as suggestions? This chart shows it perfectly. Let's say you need to have a tough conversation. The old way, the thought, "this will just make things worse," pops up and you treat it as a fact. So what happens? You stay quiet. You let resentment build. But in the new way, you hear that thought and you reframe it. My mind suggests this might be difficult. See the difference? Suddenly there's a little space. You can acknowledge the suggestion, thank your mind for the warning, and still choose to act. And that opens the door to actual growth. So how do you actually do this? It's a really simple 4-step practice. First, you just notice the thought. No judgment, just see it. Second, you recognize it for what it is, a pop-up notification from your old software. Third, and this one is huge, you thank your mind. Seriously, just a simple, "hey, thanks for trying to protect me." It sounds weird, but it's disarming. And fourth, you choose your next move based on what you value, not on what the fear suggestion is telling you. Now, when you start doing this consistently, the long-term effects are, and I'm not exaggerating, profound. This isn't just some little mind trick. This is like performing a full-on reboot of your internal operating system. So what's the payoff here? Well, your decisions get way faster and clearer because you're not waiting around for a feeling of certainty that was never going to come anyway. You start to build real confidence, the kind you earn by feeling the fear and taking action anyway. Your motivation becomes more stable because it's tied to your actual values, not just your passing moods. The whole thing just accelerates your growth. And a really funny thing starts to happen after a while. You begin to recognize your mind's greatest hits album. The same old fears on repeat. What are they going to think? You're not ready for this. After a while, you hear that same old track start to play, and you can almost smile. Oh, it's this song again. Because once you recognize the pattern, it loses its power over you. So, I'll leave you with this. The very next time your mind hits you with one of those limiting thoughts, you can't do that, it's too risky, you'll fail. Just for a second, pause and ask yourself this one simple question. Is that a fact, or is it just a suggestion? Because in that tiny little pause, that's where all your freedom begins.